All right, hello everybody. I'm Brian, and this is AAMI News and Conversation. We're at AAMI Nexus Day 2, and I'm here with Aditya Kale, a clinical researcher fellow in AI and digital health. But Adi, I'm going to ask you to introduce what work you do, where you work, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Brian. My name's Adi, and I'm a clinical research fellow in the University of Birmingham and University Hospitals at Birmingham in the UK. I'm currently a clinical research fellow in AI and digital health, and so myself and the rest of my group, we very much focus on delivering academic work in the field of the evaluation and regulation of AI as a medical device, with the intention of informing policymakers and also any regulatory change. And so we're working very closely with a number of bodies in the UK, including our own UK medical device regulator.
So it makes a lot of sense for you to be here at the AAMI-FDA Nexus. But I first caught your presentation during the AI pre-conference symposium, covering all things AI, so many different topics to talk about. But the one that you really touched on was a new standard, a new British standard specifically. So out of the UK, this is BS 30440. What is that standard all about?
Yeah, thanks. So I think we can all agree that we're seeing lots of new and exciting kind of technologies that are AI or ML enabled. But the really difficult and important thing for us to think about is how we're validating and evaluating these new technologies. And although there are kind of existing standards and existing processes to validate these technologies, there are kind of new things that we need to think about for AI and ML. So this new standard, the 30440 standard, is a validation framework for AI in healthcare. And what it aims to achieve is really kind of provide an umbrella of things that the suppliers and also adopters need to think about when implementing AI, ensuring that it's safe, effective, and equitable.
Okay, and it was something that came up during that talk, I heard quite a lot actually, was the idea that the approach is going to vary depending on the intended use of the artificial intelligence driven medical device program, whatever it might be. What exactly do you mean like that? We can't take the same validation process every time?
Yeah, really good question. So I guess it always comes down to the intended use. So with AI and ML devices, the interesting thing is that you can deploy the same device in various different ways, but still remain within the intended use that it's been regulated for. And so when that comes to kind of clinical evaluation, we need to think about how we're actually evaluating or validating that even at the implementation phase. So the approach that we're taking at the moment is that we normally kind of ask the AI supplier or manufacturer to analyze a kind of data set from our local institution, which then allows us to understand the feasibility of moving forward into something like a silent trial, and then finally thinking about kind of a local implementation study with kind of patient-facing workflows.
Something that had jumped out at me was you had mentioned that implementing AI or early adoption of AI for a health system is usually not at first cost effective. It's very hard to make it cost effective.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does that plug into this standard, this kind of need for understanding?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. So the standard doesn't cover cost effectiveness in that much detail. In the UK, we do have we have a body called NICE, which kind of provide health technology assessment expertise and also look at the cost effectiveness side. Now, when it comes to the initial deployment of AI and ML devices, often, well, for the most part, it won't be cost effective until later down the line. But that's kind of something that we're working with the different manufacturers on and trying to understand what the kind of 3 to 5 year plan should be for these deployments.
But I can imagine, the top priority is going to be patient safety.
Yeah.
And that sounds more like in line with what this standard is helping assure.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we think about AI as a medical device, we think about, as I mentioned, the 3 different kind of pillars, which are safety, effectiveness, and equity. And so what this standard does really well is really kind of bridge the gap between the supplier and the NHS hospitals and tell both parties all of the different things they need to be thinking about and what different kind of levels of information need to be provided to ensure that going forward the safety of that deployment is assured.
Now, of course, this sounds like if you're a hospital system who wants to make sure that you're making the right choices with AI, it's an easy standard to turn to. Yeah. It sounds like, but though I guess the side for where an incentive is either needed or you need to encourage is the supplier side. How do you get them involved with this standard?
Yeah, it's really, really good point. So I think we're at at least in the UK, a lot of the AI medical devices that are deployed are third party developed. So we don't have as much in-house development. And what that means is that we have kind of a really good opportunity to, even in the procurement phase, when we're having those initial discussions with the supplier, we can actually lay out exactly what we expect from the supplier as an NHS trust, what we want to see in terms of all the documentation, and what we expect even after the implementation has kind of taken place. And so this standard kind of gives us, I guess, the kind of framework of what to think about and what to ask the supplier. And so that's how we can actually try and encourage the supplier to engage with this.
Oh, no, that's perfect. You know, Addy, the idea of implementing a new standard like this and trying to get two parties to meet in the middle, adoption is always kind of the biggest challenge, I'm sure. Yeah. Are you trying to figure out any ways of how this is impacting the communities affected?
Yeah, absolutely. Really good question. So we know that obviously we've got the standard now. It could be iterated, but it's important to understand what implications the standard has and how it might be used in the future. So one of my colleagues, Rob Turpin from the British Standards Institute, is leading an impact study to firstly understand which NHS trusts are kind of early adopters of this standard, how they're using it, but more importantly, what the main challenges are with use of this standard. And kind of we at the University Hospitals Birmingham NHS Trust, we're kind of, we've picked up the standard, we're starting to understand what implications it has, but we're also starting to understand what additional tools might be required to comply with the standard.
Oh, great, so those are the big next steps. I'm excited. Now, I'll ask you one last question, and it's unrelated to this standard, but I was curious because there's been a lot of AI talk going on this whole conference. Yeah. Was there anything that jumped out at you that said, oh, wow, I haven't had my eye on that, but now I'm going to be thinking about it?
Yeah, really good question. I mean, so it's something that I have had my eye on, but I still found the session really, really useful. And that was, we mentioned earlier, the predetermined change control plans.
PCCP.
PCCPs, exactly. So I think that that's the next big thing for kind of regulation of AI, ML-enabled devices. I think that at the moment, with software broadly, manufacturers can ship updates very, very quickly, but often the regulatory system can't keep up with it. So I think that the kind of ability to have these predetermined change control plans approved even at the kind of regulatory approval process, I think that's going to be really, really key to ensure that we have continuous updating, we have continuous prioritization of patient safety, and that we have continuous kind of high-level performance of these devices.
It's an exciting area, and we will be having other discussions about that very topic, so stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, Addy, thank you so much for talking to me today about BS 30440.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
And enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thanks very much.
All right.